So, did you guys hear about, who was it, Kelly Leach? She was going to be running for the Conservative Party. She had, her popular thing was that she had a Canadian values test. I believe that's what it was, Canadian values test. I forget all the questions, but the two main ones were, do men and women deserve equal rights, or should we have equality in the country? And does violence have any place in political discourse? A couple of the questions along the same kind of things. Yeah. Basically, do you believe in human rights, right?
Yeah.
And I went to an anti-white supremacy conference. One of the lead speakers said that her Canadian values test was code word for anti-Muslim immigration.
That's quite Islamophobic to say, because then she's saying that Muslims don't believe in human rights, so they wouldn't be allowed by this values test. That's actually quite Islamophobic to say, because
generalization.
There could be a lot of Muslims that believe in human rights. Like I mentioned, Majid Nawaz is one of them. There are a lot of Muslim reformers that, you know, they see Sharia as something for their own selves to follow, but not to enforce on everybody. I don't know what percentage of Muslims that would be, but there are Muslims that definitely believe that.
And a lot of them, when they come to Canada, they convert. Like I have a lot of friends who are like from Iran, and they're all super like chill, just really laid back. Like normally they become atheists or sometimes Christians, and it's just like, yeah, these people are good because they're held under such an oppressive system in some of the countries they come from. They can't say anything. Then they come to a country where, wow, you can actually say what you want to say. Okay, well maybe I'm going to look at this and go away from my religion a little bit. You know?
In terms of the values test, I feel like I mentioned before, if someone wants to kill gay people, if someone thinks that rape is okay, like I don't want them in my country, they can stay where they are. At the same time, if someone really believes that, I don't know if they would actually be honest about it on a values test, right? Yeah. So I'm not sure if the values test would be super effective. I don't know, it's hard to say. Like,
and then you can't hook somebody up to the lie detector because they're not accurate at all.
Right.
But I don't know. They're decent questions, I guess. Like, is political violence okay? Well, we should say no. Antifa would disagree, obviously, and they go around attacking whoever they see as being a Nazi, even gay Jews, like Dave Rubin. But, you know, apparently you can be a Jew and you can be a Nazi. A practicing Jew, like Ben Shapiro. A practicing Jew, but no.
I don't know. Like, I feel like it's a good idea, but I don't know if it'd work in practice.
Yeah.
And to say that it's an anti-Muslim immigration test, I think that's really actually quite awful to say, because that's assuming that all Muslims don't believe in human rights, which is really wrong.
Yeah.
Like, like I mentioned, they have a very different culture. Sharia obviously is very anti-human rights, but I mean, not all Muslims support Sharia. That's quite obvious.
I wasn't the biggest fan of her, like, running. I was a big Maxime Bernier supporter, like, all the way. Mad Max, like, I liked him. I think he deserved to win. I never got my ballot, so I never got to vote for him, as a lot of my friends. We just didn't get our ballots. Thanks, Conservative Party. But I'm happy with Scheer. Like, he's decent. I wouldn't have liked Leitch too much. He's kind of like a Canadian Trump, except not in... I don't know, it's very weird. Like, compared to her opposition, I think the opposition was better.
I thought it was hilarious when Kevin O'Leary was running, because I used to watch Shark Tank a lot, and he's such a jerk. He's such a jerk. I just hate him so much, because he was always the kind of guy that would try to make the most money and, like, gouge you for everything you've got. Yeah. He'd always ask for royalties, and, like, I hate him. So I was really glad that he dropped out.
He'd be a good finance minister.
He doesn't even speak French, and he grew up in Montreal, so, like... Yeah. To be honest, when I watch the Parliament video, sometimes I watch like their debates in Parliament. Scheer's accent kind of like kills me a little bit inside.
That's why Max would have been so good.
Scheer, he's from Saskatchewan, isn't he? I thought he was from like the prairie somewhere.
Oh yeah,
Alberta, Saskatchewan, maybe.
And then he moved to Ontario for a long time.
Good on him for learning French then.
Yeah, he absolutely learned French. Trudeau has a perfect accent.
Max had a
Andrew Scheer, he needs to work on his accent. He sounds very Anglo, but whatever. I love Parliament debates. They get really wild.
Scheer's just called out Trudeau. And
you
can imagine.
And he never answers any questions straight. I find it very irritating. I know all politicians do that to some extent, but I feel like he's definitely worse at it.
Dodging questions. Have you seen the compilations of Trudeau dodging questions?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I totally forget what the question was that Andrew asked Trudeau.
How many times have you met with the ethics commissioner?
Yes.
We are working very hard I don't know. Yeah. I'll answer any questions that she might have.
Like one of his finance minister who was like swindling funds and like pulled his money out of a business before there's going to be a new tax.
Bill Morneau, wasn't his name?
Morneau. Like that. Like, oh, well, we're here to promote equity and equality, whatever that all is.
But Trudeau makes up for it by being a feminist. Right?
Yeah, yes. Actually.
People kind.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, that's not a word. That's...
Actually, we use the word people kind from now on.
And then he tried to say that was a joke.
Yeah.
I'm
It
just
was
making
very
fun of
funny.
myself.
I can get it kind of being a joke when I look back on it, but I don't see how he didn't
seem like
think...
a joke.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
that wasn't a joke.
Yeah, it didn't seem like a joke. I don't know. But whatever.
Considering
Anyways.
the whole crowd clapped when he said that.
yeah,
What was
that
that?
was the whole thing about
Yeah.
that.
Anyway.
But yeah, he corrected a woman, so I think that should be considered mansplaining.
Didn't you want to talk about feminism?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we're going to
Before
talk
the
about
break?
feminism.
Yeah.
So as the only female mod of the FSC, I'm kind of a diversity hire, but
Gotta hit that quota.
yeah, exactly. But I feel like I have, I guess, kind of a unique perspective on feminism because I used to consider myself a feminist. I think it's very common nowadays for women to get caught up in that because they say, the thing that they do is this. They say, feminism is a dictionary definition. It simply means that you believe in equal rights for men and women. So then you think, of course I'm a feminist. Like, everyone should be a feminist. Like Trudeau said, everyone should be feminists. So you think, obviously, yeah. And then they go on with all these things that they say, you're not a true feminist if you're pro-life. You're not a true feminist if you don't support trans people and don't believe that a trans woman is a woman. You're not a true feminist if or like Linda Sarsour, for example, said, you cannot be a true feminist and be a Zionist. So there's all these, like, it's like all these tenets of feminism that they add in later. I don't know, they add in all this stuff. So they suck you in by saying, like, this very broad definition. And then they say, okay, now you need to believe this, this, and this. You can't be conservative, you can't be Christian, you can't be pro-life, you can't be X, Y, and Z. And then you're like,
Can't be a gay man and be a pro-feminist.
okay. So, like, yeah, they suck you in and then they try to indoctrinate you with all this stuff. So that's, I guess, kind of how I got sucked in. And I guess that's kind of also how I got involved in free speech a bit because once I realized that, like, I don't know, there were a lot of my opinions that I was kind of afraid to say. Like, for example, sitting in class in, like, first year, second year, I remember my philosophy prof was saying, like, as an example, she was saying, like, I don't know, she was criticizing religion quite a bit. And I felt like, you know, that's fair enough. But I feel like I felt like I should just stay silent and not say, like, yeah, I believe in God. Like, when there's everybody sitting here in the class, I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm not going to speak up. And obviously being pro-life is, like, extremely unpopular these days. Of course, people accuse me of hating women, despite that I am a woman. So I don't really understand how they think that works. But yeah, that was one of those things that I felt like I couldn't share those opinions. And then after studying abroad, I guess I gained a lot of confidence. I realized that people, you know, they weren't so antagonistic towards those positions. I think as well, I went to a political science school there, so people were more open about their political views. Mm-hmm. And I realized that people, like, you know, they didn't hate me. They didn't think I was a horrible person for believing what I believed. And I thought, you know, it's okay if I say these things. It's okay to be counterculture. It's okay to not go with a narrative. And you're not a bad person if you disagree with the mainstream opinion. Yeah. Which I feel like a lot of that comes from the left is like, if you don't agree with me on this issue, you're a bad person. It's not just that we disagree, right? I feel like obviously you can say this on the right too. That comes from both sides. Sure. But I feel like that's very harmful to say, like, if you don't believe this, you're a bad person. And if it's just like quite a neutral issue, like, obviously, like, I'm pro-life. I believe that abortion is wrong. But I wouldn't say, like, oh yeah, pro-choice people are all, like, terrible human beings. I think that we just have different, I don't know, there's different views that we have. And obviously I try to convince pro-choice people, and I feel that I have good arguments to believe what I believe.
Mm-hmm. You want to present those now?
I feel that they're misguided in a lot of ways.
Well, like, so the first, I'm a biochemist, as I said before. So, like, a big thing about me is I believe that human rights have to go to humans, and that we have to be able to define humans very clearly at a very specific point. And for me, that's the moment that the two haploid cells with 23 chromosomes per, not two sets, just one set, come together to form a zygote. And from that point on, it's a human organism. Now, from that point, we can actually discuss, should we kill it, should we not kill it, that sort of stuff.